see. Yeah, he love the ball. We posted up like we the nation with the final call. Rest in peace to Shouty Low. D4L since Shouty though. We been pimping since been pimping, and that's something Shouty know. Gangsters understand the lingo, suckers sharp but Shouty slow. Stack them chips and all the bingo when we fill up all the roast, all the roast, all the roast.
Yo, welcome back to another episode of TalkIsTalk Podcast. We've been laying low on y'all, but hey, we back now in full force.
Yo, it's your boy Noah. Like he said, man, we've been laying a little bit, man. Vacating a little bit.
It's the daylight saving time. Well, it's your boy C too, man. For you, and we do anything.
Yeah, it's your boy C.
Hey, it's really a daylight saving time.
Yeah, and you already know what I'm telling you every time. Subscribe to the YouTube TalkIsTalk Podcast 864.
And your boy here, Mary, put in some vacation hours, so he got them.
Shout out to Hail Mary.
Yeah, he got a little vacation hours in.
We got a couple guests with us tonight. Tell them who y'all live.
Good evening. My name is Ty. I am here with my daughter Sierra.
Hey, everybody.
What's going on, y'all?
Excited?
Excited.
Ready to have some good conversation?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You should have been on here for a minute.
Exactly. Man. We ain't going to get into that, though. I ain't going to tear into you about that, but we can agree that I should have been on here.
Oh, so you supposed to be in here, but is him dragging?
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
Oh,
I believe all that.
Did I ask you before?
No, but I asked you.
What'd I say?
See,
I don't remember that.
Are you trying to be friends? We ain't gonna rehash.
Because I usually have an open door policy.
I can tell you exactly what you said, but no.
Damn it.
No.
Oh. Tell me later, I guess. What's going on, man?
I don't know. What y'all seen out there?
Out just like every day? Or
just out in current events?
Well, in current events, it's war. I think we might be on the precipice of World War III. I absolutely think so.
Meaning what? Where you getting that from?
Just watching current events. And when I say current events, not what we see in our newspapers and on our world news, but let's say you look at the India Times or something like that, or the Daily Mail, something that's outside of U.S. jurisdiction. And I think that it just shows us a lot of unrest out there, and a lot of us sheeple are not going to recognize what's going on until we're in the full throes of it, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Now, see, the India Times don't fall across my desk. What you seeing on there?
Well, I was in there. As a matter of fact,
India Times.
In the India Times last week, following the story of my daughter and what happened, and suing the school district of Greenville County, we were top 10 in world news, and we were in the India Times. We were in the Daily Mail. We were in People Magazine. Yep. We were in the New York Post, and we were in the Washington Post.
Oh, okay.
And now you're on TalkIsTalk.
Now we're on TalkIsTalk. Now we're at home.
Let's not even waste no more time. Let's get into give us a little background of your story. What you saying about your daughter? And
so I have a daughter that's 14 years old. At 12 years old, 20 days before her 13th birthday, she made the decision to take her own life by hanging. And by the grace of God, I found her. But when I found her, she was deceased already. She had blood coming from her nose. She had urinated, and she was cool to the touch. My husband and I did not know CPR, so she was dead for a full 8 minutes before we were able to get help, and the paramedics came, and by a miracle of God, she still retains her life. We were in the hospital for 101 days, and it's a journey that I would have never imagined myself on. You know, we did everything that we could to give her the very best, you know, life that we could. This is her older sister. So she's the youngest of 3 girls. And, you know, she was loved. She was spoiled. She was engaged in activities. But what she was not is well received by her peers in the 6th grade when I got special permission for her to go to a new school. You know, as parents, lots of times in our quest to give our children the very best and to make sure that they're able to have experiences that we might not necessarily have had before, been exposed to before, you know, you jump at the chance. And, you know, this was a STEM school. She's very bright. We had all of these ideas and thoughts for her life. So absolutely the best schooling was a part of that path. And I did think about, but I don't think I weighed it heavily enough, the impact of her going from the 5th grade, where she had had the same friends since kindergarten,
right,
to a brand new school, a totally different experience. I think where she knew maybe 3 people. Mm-hmm. I wasn't afraid of it, you know, because she's well equipped. I mean, confident. And you know, of course, you know, I kept her hair done, kept her dressed nice. So you just didn't foresee a lot of the things that began to happen.
What school? What school?
She went to Fisher Middle School.
So for the ones that don't know, why did this take place though? But
Tried to take her own life.
So 2 months into the 6th grade, I started to just notice a difference in her. So I first want to talk about who she was initially before this happened.
Right.
Just bubbly, smart, funny, with tons of energy, always laughing and joking and somersaulting and splitting, and just, you know, she just
very
was
pretty too.
Happy.
Thank you.
Tenor is the lover.
Pretty.
Honestly, Tenor is the lover.
She was the absolute light. And it's funny because like peers wrote things for her initially in those first days in the hospital. They wrote them on hearts, and these were a lot of the words that they used to describe her. But once she really like got into school good, especially like December of 2021, which would have been the first semester of 6th grade, you know, going into Christmas break, I could just really tell a difference. Like, she wasn't happy and bubbly and smiling all the time. You know, she was angry, spicy a little bit. And she just always seemed upset, like ready to cry all the time. And when I first asked her, you know, what was going on, and she was telling me, I mean, you know how we are, especially, you know, as Black parents, it's just like, okay, I mean, so what? I mean, is it true?
Right.
Well, if it ain't true, then it don't matter, you know.
Right.
And
just ignore them.
Yeah, just ignore them. We'll go a different way. Well, don't worry about it. You know, they're just saying that because they're jealous. You know, like all of the things that, you know, we tell them. And I would even go deeper than that. You know, I get into the emotional IQ of things. I'm like, listen, you know, they probably don't have the things that you have. You know, they probably don't come from a 2-parent household. You know, because I believe this. I believe that most of the time hurt people. You know, most of the time, because I was bullied. And most of the children that used to mess with me didn't have the same love that I had in my household. They weren't as well taken care of in their household as I was. And so I would try to explain these things to her. But, you know, as a child, those things don't matter. What matters is how accepted you are by your peer group.
Right.
How popular or in this case, that you are.
Right. Yeah, that goes a long way right there. With they so young, they think the friend group is everything.
That's the thing, Chris. It's like, and I say this to people, like, you don't realize, but see, I get deep into that thing because I'm one of them forensics files. You know, I watch all of that. I'm like obsessed like with psychology and things like that. And you look at a 12-year-old child and you think about that frontal lobe, it's not fully developed.
Right.
You can't even really see past the moment or the day. So of course, what happens to you in your school day is everything.
Everything, yeah.
You know, how well received you are by your peers is everything.
Yes,
Whether the boy that you like thinks you're pretty is everything.
Yeah.
Like, these things are so magnified because that's their entire existence.
Right, yeah.
And that's so really much deeper than, don't worry about that. Don't worry about what they what they say and all that type shit, it's deeper than
It's
that.
way deeper because, I mean, you have to think about, like, you know, like back in the day, how did they used to get in touch with us? You know, on the house phone.
Right.
You know, but now you got cellular devices and then you bring into it social media.
Yeah.
You know, anything that anybody wants to say or do to ruin your day, they can make that happen instantly, especially if you have an iPhone. You can airdrop.
Right.
You know, something, you know, on a person right quick. Or the thing that she experienced is people going into group chat.
Right.
You know, and you don't even know who all is in there, but, you know, they're saying things. You look like a man, you know, you got a mustache, you fat, you know, just, you know, for a little girl.
Yeah.
You know, I vividly remember 7th grade and just, you know, you like little boys, you want to be liked back, and you know, you want to know, you know, if they find you attractive. That's everything.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
almost like your currency.
It is, you know, like, you know, of course, you know, my grandma was gonna tell me I was pretty all day long. You know, I'm smart, you can be anything, but girl, that don't matter if this little boy don't think I'm cute.
Right.
You know, you telling me that means absolutely nothing. But when I bust up in here with this sleep outfit on tomorrow at this dance with my socks stacked up,
Right.
what it's gonna be, you know, like that's the thing, you know, and I think we forget that, like, as parents, but not me. I'm deep like that, you know. I would always take it back to my experiences, and I'm like that with everybody. You know, I always am going to try to relate to what you're experiencing on whatever level that I can.
Right.
But then, you know, also, you know, I'm a strong Black woman. And I'm an educated Black woman, and, you know, you just wasn't going to be messing with mine. You just weren't going to be doing that. You know, so it went from ignore them, see if you can go another route, to pot that bitch in the face. You know, you got my permission. They can call me. We ride across the street. I'm pulling up on 2 wheels. Oh, she'll tell you, like, the number. Because I always, you know, I'm a woman of God first. I always want to try to do it the right way. But, you know, you can't control who your kids go to school with.
Right.
And it's just a lot of ignorance. You know, just straight up, you got people who all they know is fighting. You know, that's how they come up. You know, that's how they get their points and stuff. And, you know, but you ain't finna get nothing off mine. Right. And that was just my whole thing, feeling like that she had to go to school and endure things that she shouldn't have had to endure. You shouldn't have to be afraid of going to school. You shouldn't have to be worried about whether or not 6 girls gonna jump you, and then if you tell, whether or not they gonna label you as a snitch. It's crazy the things that they have to weigh out in their mind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think that for her, and you just have to think about that, 12 years old, and the whole thing is how I'm viewed, how people see me, how they feel about me, how I'm received. And then on top of that, you know, wanting to not only be accepted, but to feel protected, and then to feel like that your protection is your responsibility. Right. That's where she was. Like, she felt like her protection was her responsibility. You know, I done came up there and showed out. Yeah, I'm not afraid to do that. Right. I am well documented in Greenville County schools.
And you don't went up there and showed out, and I bet she didn't want you to come up there and show out.
She didn't.
That make it worse.
It makes it worse because, oh my God, thank you for saying, because that was the thing. So, like, when you get into the time that, like, led up to her actually doing it, I felt like everything was all to the good, because it had been, you know, like maybe a good 2-3 month spread where I hadn't really heard anything. Right. It wasn't that. Right. It was, you ain't want to tell me because you didn't want me back up there showing out. Right. You know, you feeling like that make it worse, because believe it or not, I don't know, like, you know, teachers are people too. And, you know, they talk to their peers and their coworkers and stuff. And, you know, they have conversations, and then the next thing you know, it gets back to the students, and oh, you a snitch? Oh, what you gonna do? You gonna tell your mama? That's exactly like when she got into her first fight. That's, you know, what the fight. That's how it happened. You know, they were making fun of her, and she was ignoring them. But it's like, it's hard to ignore a person when they're in your personal space. Right. You know, it's one thing when you're just saying what you're saying, and then it's another thing like where you're right here and you're in front of me, and you know, and I'm trying to ignore you, and I'm trying to do my work, and you're right here, and then the teacher's right here. Right. And nobody's saying anything. Imagine like how she felt. Right. But, you know, the girl's like, what you gonna do? You gonna tell your mama? You gonna tell your mama? Your mama ugly. You might, and then like most children, you know, it's like I have been telling her for the better part of a year, smack them in the face, catch them one by one, catch them up in the bathroom, you know, and she knew how to fight. It's not that she didn't know how to fight. She did. She was afraid of what she would do once she got loose.
Right.
Period. And I hated that for her because I'm like, let's just get loose and we'll clean it up later.
Right.
Because that's just where I was.
Right.
I've called. I've emailed. Y'all coming at me with ridiculousness like, yeah, well, we're going to change her classes. And why?
Right.
Why should she have to uproot her schedule and change everything about what she's doing when she is the victim? And that's my whole entire point. I've read some of the ridiculous comments and people, popping off. First of all, you don't know me. If you knew me, you wouldn't even have to worry about whether or not I would sit back and allow my child to be bullied for a year and a half. That would never happen on my watch.
Comments on what? Like
comments on social media. People there is a woman with initials CI. Hello, Christ's idiot. That's the only thing that I could think to sign those initials to. But she wrote me this long, this long thing about, you sat back and let her get bullied for a year and a half. Now you want us to help you take care of her or whatever. First of all, the fact that you donated $5 didn't give you the right to attack me in any way. And I don't owe anybody any explanation. But I don't think that anybody gets to file a lawsuit unless they try to do something prior to whatever happened. And that's my entire point. There were calls, there were emails, there were conferences, there were emails from my own baby. I'm so proud of Kalea Turner. I raised an amazing child, praise God, because she sought to handle her own business. She was emailing guidance counselors and the subject is issues, and then she going on into one I can think of in particular. She's talking about issues that she's having with the student, the fact that she addressed them with that person and they popped off on her, and she wanted to talk to the guidance counselor on what she could have said or done differently to get a different outcome, because she's very logical. She's very old because she was the baby. I have 3 girls, each of them are 7 years apart, so she was 14 when Kalea was born. Her other sister was 7.5, and then me and her daddy grown, so she was just grown, from a young age. But that's our whole thing. Just help me figure out what's going on, because I've told her nobody has to like you, but nobody has the right to make you feel less than either. And that's the thing that I feel like is such an epidemic in the Black community, is that people have that crab in a barrel mentality. You feel like you have to dim somebody else's light in order for yours to shine brighter. And why is that the case?
Threatened. Intimidated.
It's crazy. I've been told that my entire corporate career, you're intimidating. In what way, sir?
Right.
In what way? Because I'm dressed nice, I'm well presented, I'm well spoken, because I know my, what I'm saying? What is that? Don't be intimidated with that. Be excited about that and think about how you can use that as an asset on your team. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand stuff like that, Everything is a weapon in a toolbox. You got to figure out how to use it to best assist you and propel you forward. And I think that's the same in any setting. And I feel like where my daughter was failed at is Greenville County schools. They have this whole thing where there's zero tolerance. That is foolishness. It has never been zero tolerance. This one here, back in the day, in middle school, she went to a mostly white middle school, and this big corn-fed girl threatened her and told her that she was going to cut her head off and staple it back onto her. I actually put this in an email to Greenville County, copied in the district, copied in everybody, because I've just always been that person. There's always an above you. So I'm not getting what I need here, then I'm going to go above you, and then I'm going to go above you. Right. But, people who look like us don't matter. No. Especially if your paper ain't long, at the end of the day, they ignored her. That's a terroristic threat. Nothing happened. This girl was going around telling people she was going to beat her up, sending people to give her messages that she was going to beat her up. And then when they finally got into a physical altercation, the call that I got on my job is she done jumped this girl. Now, if you get a call and you hear that your student has jumped somebody, what's your thought process?
Meanwhile, she actually came up to me to a locker and said, "Do you got a problem?" And I just went to work. And what's so crazy is that, again, I went to a predominantly white school. So, the bitches are snickering at me, you know, oh, she finna get beat up. But, you know, when it's, oh, God, no! Stop it! Oh, my God! And then I become the offender. I become the criminal. I become the one that, you know, is out of control. I become the problem.
So you don't whooped on so bad, they thought it was two of you.
That's how I got the call. And it was so crazy because I got the call from the administrator and she was like, Sierra has jumped this student and you need to come get her right now. And I was like, what? I said, you got to tell me what's, because I'm always that parent.
Right.
I'm always that parent because I was raised by my grandmother, and you know, the old school black mamas like, oh my God, they're gonna whip your butt and ask questions later. She used to, if they said I did it, I did it. Right. You know, period, point in the blank. And so I said I would never be like that with my children. I make sure that I know my children. I study them.
Right.
And you ain't gonna call me and just tell me you know anything about them, because I know that the system is set up when it comes to us for failure. Y'all got a school to prison pipeline. That's a real thing. You don't really want us in the same classes with your children. That's a real thing. And so you're not going to just tell me know anything when it comes to my child. I have to have a reasonable thought process as to how that happened.
Right.
And so me knowing my child, no, she ain't just jumped on no. And what do you mean when you say jump? So who all fought with her?
Right.
Because you talking like it's more than one person. They're like, no, it's a fight. So let's say that. Say this and then say there was a physical altercation, not that she jumped anybody. Because now you sounding biased. And I'm talking to him just like that. Okay. That's who I am. Okay. She's like, well, you know, it's da-da-da. Well, who was the person? Oh, that little girl that we've been complaining about for the past 4 to 6 months that's been harassing her. Right. Yeah, like get ready, click. So the school resource officer calls me and he's apologetic. Thank God he had some sense in the situation, because a lot of these times it's just a group mentality. Like they all feel the same and they will support each other. They will back each other. That's why you have so many children like experiencing this. But he told me, he said, you know, I hate that it happened to her. He said, I ain't put her in cuffs. He said, because she didn't start it. He said, that student walked over to her locker. He said, and I know what's been going on. He said, but I'm telling you that if her parent wants to press charges, then I'm going to have to do that.
Right. Okay.
You know, and thank God she had a logical mother who had said, you got what you was looking for.
Okay.
But that doesn't really happen,
right? You
know, very often.
Was she white?
Yes.
And what school was this?
Ralph Chandler Middle School.
Ralph Chandler Middle School. Okay.
Yeah, down there with the future farmers of America.
Okay.
It was very difficult, you know, living down there, you know. So we were laughing earlier talking about how everything's being gentrified and we're being like pushed further and further down. But I've been in Simpsonville for about 16 years, but we moved down there in 2009 when she was 14 and my middle daughter was 7, and they quickly let us know that we were not welcome.
Yeah.
Very quickly. Like, imagine going to school and somebody asking you if you put the same kind of grease in your hair as you used to fry your chicken.
Oh, Lord. I believe.
You know?
I believe.
Like, and all an administrator can say, because I took that to the administrator, so what are we going to do about this? And her thing is, you know, well, we can't control who comes to school and says what, you know, like they learn those types of things at home. Well, what are you teaching here?
Right.
Because that's my thing, and that's why I'm coming out the gate so hard. Like, our children spend so much of their time in school. More time than they spend at home with you. Yeah. More time than they spend in their extracurricular activities. More time than they spend in church. They spend in the halls and walls of school. So what are you teaching them? And furthermore, how are we equipping these children? Because as tragic as Kalea's story is, this thing is way bigger than her. Yeah. And I've seen it like firsthand, like since I first spoke out, like people are in my inbox, people who don't look like me at all, money way longer than mine could ever be. And the thing that we have in common is these children in a school system being harassed, being ridiculed, being physically and verbally assaulted with little to no repercussion in a school district that says that there is zero tolerance for such behavior. I'm going to have to see show and improve in that, because just as recently as this past weekend, I had a parent reach out to me, well, she's not a parent, she's a guardian, and her niece, who attends the same middle school. Just recently started, I think she said in October, and she was just discharged from a mental health hospital on last week for attempting to commit suicide. Why? Because she was being bullied and it was falling on deaf ears. I've heard from parents that talked about like how they were going up there and talking about how their student was being physically assaulted. There was a smear campaign on social media, terroristic threats via text message, and you don't do anything. And then when they threaten to sue, then you want to talk about changing classes, but not for the bullies, for the victim. And so they just end up pulling their children out of school. And I had that question asked of me as well. If it was so horrible, why you didn't pull her out?
I was about to ask, did you consider switching schools?
Okay. So I'll accept the question. Did you consider switching schools? But like, why didn't you pull her out? I feel like it's such a privileged question.
And they wanted you to pull out, meaning doing homeschool? Okay.
Yes, and let me state that there is a significant number of children that are in Greenville K-12's homebound program, specifically because they were bullied. I actually was on a conservative program on last Tuesday morning, and it's crazy because somebody reached out to me and was like, well, you know, if you really want this to make an impact, you're going to have to get with the conservative audience. And I was like, that's crazy, you know, to even think that you would have to appeal to a certain demographic. But that woman had been talking about our story for like a week, and I found out that it had hit close to home for her because she too had a 12-year-old son that had been being bullied. She'd reached out. She had conferences. She was doing everything that she could. Nothing changed. They wanted to make changes, but to her son's schedule, which would just undo like everything that he had going. And these structure and routines matter for children's mental health. And so she ended up having to pull him out. And she's like, you know, she's in a position where she had 2 older children who can kind of help watch him during the day while she works. I'm not in that position.
Right.
And like I stated on her show, because that was a question that was asked while I was on that morning, I said in the beginning that Kalea went to a brand new school where she didn't know anybody. She had the same friends from kindergarten through 5th grade. So any school that I would have put her in was going to be the same situation. It was going to be her brand new, needing to meet people and make friends. And that was going to be contingent upon how willing people were to accept her. So it's not about changing schools. It's about changing the atmosphere and the environment in schools. Right. If bullying is really zero tolerance, and that's what it needs to be, that needs to be the atmosphere in the school. Like the first time that you hear somebody being called out of their name, you don't join in and be like, oh my God, it's just a joke.
Right.
Because if it's anything that's attacking somebody's appearance, how's it a joke anyways? You know, you take the time right then and there. I feel like if it was really zero tolerance, if you really started calling people mama and them, and they had to start getting up off that couch, putting down that remote control, or having to leave those jobs,
clocking up,
then you're going to start to address the situation. But where we have an epidemic at is we have a school district that will be ignorant. I have found out that I'm thinking we doing something special here. We are not doing something special. I think we are the 4th lawsuit in the past 2-3 years for Greenville County.
So Greenville County really dropping the ball.
Greenville County really needs an overhaul of their entire system. Their administrators need training. There needs to be the introduction of social emotional learning in schools. What is social emotional learning? Teaching emotional intelligence. The thing about these children, they have such big feelings and big emotions, and half the time they don't know how to navigate them.
Right.
You know, they don't know how to process the things that they're experiencing and the things that they're going through. And that's how you have a situation, you know, I did an interview with somebody and they shared this criterion with me. They said, I can't remember if it's this year as in 2024, so don't quote me, or if it's this past year as in 2023. But what I can say is that there were 899 instances of reported bullying across Greenville County schools. And that's only those that 899. And that's only those that reported.
Right.
Because, you know, I never reported. I was scared, you know, of what would happen if I did report. I just had to, you know, go through it. And, you know, I was too afraid of what would happen on the other side of killing myself. But I did have the thought, I did have thoughts of not mattering, thoughts of being insignificant, thoughts of why am I here because of some of the things that I suffered, and it wasn't at the hands of adults, it was at the hands and the mouths of children, and more than that, ones that look just like me,
So when you did you, the person who was bullying your daughter, did you even speak with their parents?
No, and I'm glad that you asked me that, because that was a request of mine, and the response to that request was so infuriating. I was told that they wouldn't do that because they wouldn't have anything in place if the parents got physical, or if the parents were, and I'm like, I felt so stereotyped.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine, if you're talking to Susan, that this is the same thought process that you're having when Susan is asking to meet with a parent of the person who's making her child's life miserable. Certainly, I don't want to attack her in any way. What I want to do is have some sort of level of understanding, because maybe there is something that's going on deeper. And that's my challenge to Greenville County now. Like 9 times out of the 10, like students who are bullies are known.
Yeah.
Y'all are documented in the system. There is disciplinary action in place. They just don't enforce it enough. And I feel like when children are coming to the office multiple times for things like putting their hands on another child or disrupting class, then let's get to the bottom of what's happening. I like to use the analogy of root and fruit. So the fruit is that behavior that they're showing, I'm cussing you out, I'm disrupting class. I don't have any respect for authority, or I'm pushing people down. I'm spitting on people, why though?
Right.
Children aren't just like that. A lot of the times those things are a cry for help, but we're so busy. We don't even care enough to dig deeper to see what's going on. 9 times out of the 10, even if there is a referral sent home or a note sent home where that child has exhibited that behavior and that parent is being notified of it, they're just going to be punished.
Right.
Nobody's going to ask why you did it.
Right.
Nobody's going to ask that. And that's my challenge. Mental health. That's the call to action. Mental health. It's a mental health crisis. It's a mental health issue for the student who bullies, because they have an unmet need somewhere, whether that's they're not getting enough to eat at home. They don't know where they're going to sleep at home. Like, they can't get them J's and everybody wearing them J's, and I'm going to school nappy headed, ashy, all the things, that our community especially, highlights, as areas of importance. And then you have those students who are victims of bullying, and there's a mental health issue there, because now your self-esteem is being diminished. Your self-worth is being diminished. And like, what are we doing to equip students to navigate that when we know it's natural for them to navigate it? Right. And I say that because, I've been just doing research, on this stuff. I'm not coming without my guns cocked. Like, we didn't file a lawsuit frivolously. Initially, that wasn't the avenue we wanted to take. I just wanted to be acknowledged, number one. And then, like, let's talk about number 2, how we can move forward. So there's never another Kalea's story.
Right.
But they didn't even acknowledge, Kalea's story. So now I'm mad. So now, like, let's put it on the big screen, because it's not just her story. Like, it's everybody's story. Somebody somewhere is 6 degrees of separation from a situation like this. And like, what really got me is the grown-ups, like, who have reached out. I had a 56-year-old woman in England.
Right.
2 grown kids. She got grandkids, and she just told me, my baby's story broke her heart, number one, because she can remember in the 7th grade being bullied, being not liked, being not attractive, and just contemplating whether or not she wanted to exist. And it still, to this day at 56 years old, helps to shape how she navigates life and relationships. Tell me it isn't a mental health issue.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is. Mm-hmm. And we have to take accountability as a school system for what happens in those halls and walls, because just like the academics that go on there, the experiences that happen there last so much longer than the time.
Yeah, it's like
they
PTSD. It's
war
in them hallways.
Tell me it ain't.
It's war in them hallways.
It is. And
it's brutal too at schools. I still remember.
Do you?
Yeah. I mean, it's
you
brutal.
played basketball. You were popular, so I didn't
get bullied, but
can't relate. Listen, I can't understand you guys, but
no, I'm talking about the joke cracking. It's
Yeah.
brutal in them classrooms.
Yes.
It's brutal.
Yes, it is.
Brutal.
Especially when them kids in the background egging it on.
Yeah. But see,
You
now,
putting that heat on it.
but see now, as where we
Them
when we
phones and
we
shit.
came
Yeah.
up,
Boy.
we only had to deal with that hallway, and maybe that top layer, whatever you was on, top layer, bottom layer, your
When
hallway.
you get off the
Yeah.
bus.
But
and all
now,
that.
Not the
social
bus.
media shrinks it down so bad. You got to deal with
Boy.
Southside Carolina,
Greenville.
Fountain Inn High,
Anything
Greenville
happen,
High.
everybody know it.
Everybody in on you now. You know what I'm saying?
Was it just one person bullying her, or was it a group?
It was a group. It was about 6 girls and 2 boys. And when she eventually got into the fight, like I said, it started about yo mama. It's so crazy. Like all that time I had been trying to tell her to pop somebody in their mouth. She didn't do it until they got to talking about me, and then you don't went all the way out.
She got to defend your honor. You got to defend.
What you not finna do is keep talking about my MNF and mama.
Right.
And then, it was one more thing said and you done got up and started swinging. But, I hated that for her because I
Right.
know she hated to do it.
No, she didn't.
I hated for her to have to be in that situation because oh my God, y'all don't know like the tears that I would cry because I would drop her off and I would pull out the driveway to pull across to my job and I would just sit out there in the parking lot for a little bit and just pray for my baby and be like, God, like help my baby because like I be wanting to strap on a backpack and go strolling off. I've done it, Sierra.
Yeah.
They don't understand the level of crazy I am. That's what I be saying. Like people be wanting to like talk about like what they would have done. Well, first of all, let me state the natural fact. I did evolve and I did understand that pen is so much more powerful than that punch.
Right.
But when she was coming up, I don't know. You see, we strapping on backpacks. Listen, hold the door open for me. I'm finna. Who is it? Because like I just did not play about mine, but it is so sad when you get to because I thought I had made it. And I thought I had made it living in suburbia. We living in a 3,200 square foot home. We living in a gated community. She getting dropped off in a Benz every day. I feel like she don't have any worries.
Right.
Anything that she need, I can get it. I just didn't feel like we had anything that we had to worry about. We had did everything that we could to be in a position where all of the pitfalls that happened to us as young African Americans would not have to happen to her.
Right.
But it did anyway. All the perfect manicuring that I did with her life, all of the things that I strategically placed her in, all of the love and affirmation. I would do affirmations with my baby. Every morning we would talk about, you are beautiful, you strong. I can do all things. That was like the main thing. Greater is he that is within me than he who is in the world. That was another one. That was the first one that I taught her, and we would say that every single day, and all of that I put into her could not combat what was going on in those halls in school.
Do any of the kids have any of the kids shown any remorse after?
Because I know I've seen where on social media they say they came to the. If this is a myth or whatever, we can debunk this right now. It was a page on Instagram that said kids coming to the ICU and took pictures. Is that true?
I hated that was said. Okay, so nobody snuck in is what I will say.
Okay, then.
They did not sneak in. Were there unauthorized images of her on the internet as a result of someone being allowed to visit her who was a peer? Yes.
Oh, man.
It was a person that we thought was a best friend, and this person told me out of their own mouth that when they were there, they called on FaceTime and let other people who weren't her friends see her, and I couldn't understand why you would do that.
Damn. Yeah, that's...
So it was cruel intentions behind what she did?
Absolutely. I've only ever seen her that one time. We lived in that hospital for 101 days. We only ever saw that person one time, and it was her best friend.
So, but have anybody show remorse? Any of the
No, I'm
kids?
going to tell you what was so horrific. I did, it's funny because I don't think that they know that I know who they are, but I know Clay and I used to talk. And I know one of the young ladies, so Clay was in a Girl Scout troop, and several of her Girl Scout troop members went to the same middle school, and so the school really wasn't addressing it. So there was like this whole paradox, like where you have these children that they're grieving, and then there are rumors going on like over here, and then like they're waiting for the school to make some big announcement, but the school never did. Like they emailed teachers, but they never addressed it with students. And so one of the Girl Scouts, she was on the softball team with one of Kalea's bullies, and she wanted to pray for Kalea, and she wanted to dedicate that softball game to her. And the bully said, and I quote, like, "Oh my God, why does everything have to be about her?" And so, no, I don't think that they have any remorse. Recently, when the story started going viral, one of her frenemies reached out to me and wanted to come and see her, and told me how much she loved her and how they used to talk together every day and after school. And I don't think that she knows that I know that she's the one that betrayed her confidence. It's very hard navigating this thing.
No, it is.
Just trying to hold it in the road and trust that God's going to do what he needs to do. Because y'all have to recognize that, I'm 18 months plus into this journey. I never saw anybody having to have any accountability, anybody taking any responsibility. It just is what it is. We just have to navigate. I'm just having to play the hand that I was dealt. But God is so amazing. I went live. Not wanting to go live because I don't like to be talked about. Right. I'm a very private person, and just knowing how cruel people are and that I'll go renegade about mine. That's just what that is. But it just came to me, so clearly that if I love God and I trust God the way that I do, I have to understand and recognize that there's a purpose in it. People always say ridiculous things like, well, if God is real, why would he let that happen? Well, what people need to understand unequivocally is that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Right.
So you cannot have light without darkness. Evil cannot exist outside of there being good, because how would you gauge it?
Right.
So
rainbows come after storms.
That's what it is. And the calm comes before one. And so it's not that he allows things to happen. It's just that things happen, and we have to decide how we're going to navigate what happens, because we do have free will, we do have choices, and we do have thought processes. And I think one of the things that's been amazing about the journey is that Kalea left me a message for the journey. So 14 days in, I'm still in corporate America. I'm still leading a team. It's so crazy. Like on the one hand, like everything that matters in life is crumbling. And then on the other hand, you're trying to hold on to what you feel like is your provision for that life. Right. She's my baby and she's my world, but I'm the only black woman in leadership over here. I got all these people looking up to me. I cannot be a statistic. It is so crazy how it was. And right. So I didn't take any time off initially. Okay. I'm in the ICU holding meetings. I'm in the ICU working. On day 14, I show up in the office, and nobody knows what's going on other than the person that needed to know. And I had brought Kalea to work with me about 2 weeks before, just to shadow me. How it's like bring your kids to work day. It wasn't that at my job, but it was that for her school. You were supposed to shadow your parents for the day. And I remember that day I didn't really have time for her. I'm like, sit over there, don't bother me, don't this, don't that. I got stats on that board, don't take them off.
Right.
Day 14 of the ICU, she's in a coma. I go to work, and the first thing that I see is on a corner of the whiteboard, she drew a picture. She's an artist. Okay. And with markers on a whiteboard, on a dry erase board, she drew hands like this and a butterfly coming up from this hand to that hand. And across the top, she wrote, "For we live by faith and not by sight." And when I saw that, I just crumbled to the floor, man. When I tell you, that was I don't know, it was kind of like Twilight Zone. It was one of those moments everything else ceased to exist, and it was just me and the message in a vacuum. And I said, okay, I hear you. So I have decided that no matter what it looks like, I have faith that God would have the final say. I know that there's purpose in the pain. It's been an incredibly excruciating journey, but it's been fruitful. Just having people reach out to me and talk to me. I'm like, God, who am I? But I have these people reaching out to me saying like, hey, this happened to my baby. This is happening to my son. Like this happened to my daughter. And I'm like, okay, God, I hear you. All right, okay, then, well, let's do it. I don't know that I knew that this would be a part of the journey, but I welcome the challenge. I'm excited, because I've been a fighter my whole entire life. I've been a fighter on every job that I've been on. I stand up for what's right because I just have to. I love the underdog. Even I don't like football. My husband loves it. I don't know much about it, but I'm always root for the underdog. That's just like in me. And so it's like, it's so much bigger than my baby. Yes, she was the catalyst for it. Gosh, it was such a sad story, but I'm past it being a sad story. I want to talk about like what we're going to do moving forward. What are we going to do for the children who are supposed to be our future? How are we going to equip them to be able to navigate their emotions? How are we going to prepare them for tolerance? You know what I'm saying? I think that's the thing. So much hatred is taught to our children. So much ignorance is passed along to our children because the parents don't know better. And so they can only put into their children what they know.
Right.
And so what are we going to do as a school system who has so much power? What are we going to do to build these little bodies up? You know what I'm saying? That's where I am with it, because that's the responsibility. You want the funding. That's why you're not reporting all of these things that are happening. I've gotten that before too. First, I was told there really weren't very many parameters of governance. Like if somebody come up to her and call her a man, you can't just suspend them. You can't just send them home. I mean, well, what can you do? Well, we don't know. There's nothing that really says that. So they have to kind of like decide what they want to do. But then when you start adding in those politics, and the politics are funding, how you get your funding. So like how many suspensions and how many in-school suspensions that you're reporting are not reported. All of that is going to go into how you're ranked, whether or not you're a red carpet school, whether or not you're going to get funding for certain things. And then, all of this stuff is systemic. The people who your children go to school with, why do you think that we have to get special permission? Why would you have to get special permission for your child to go from one school in Greenville County to another in Greenville County? Because all of these things are not like the others, depending on how those lines are drawn, depending on how those funds are allotted, these children here are going to get a totally different academic experience than these children over here.
Do you have any regrets? Do you feel like it's something you could have did different?
Oh gosh, initially I think all I did was go back through all the shoulda, woulda, couldas. What did I miss? What didn't I ask? What didn't I say? Should I have just quit my job? Because at the end of the day, like, isn't her life worth so much more than the money that I felt like I wasn't going to make anywhere else as easily as I was making it there? Because that's how we think. I've made it. I don't want to have to. But when you think about something as precious as a child's life, and it's crazy because I used to preach this to my friends because I had friends, that were all extra ambitious and wanted to go back and get master's degrees and stuff like that. And then, you're dropping the kids off with the grandmama and the aunts and them. They ain't never seeing you, you in Columbia. And I'm like, well, what are you doing this for? Well, I want them to have the best life. I want to make sure. Mm-hmm. But like, you turn around and you look around and all of that time is gone and you can't get it back. I said it all the time, like you cannot get that time back. And I slipped. Right. I got caught up in what I'm providing. This is a lifestyle we've never lived before, and we're gonna go to college and we're gonna pay for it straight out. And boy, we're the Huxtables. Like that's what you're thinking. And in the mind of a young black woman, I've made it because we're here. My grandma had an 8th grade education. You know, I lived in a house growing up. The rent was $335 a month. You know, she didn't drive. I got my first car when I was 21.
Right.
You know, I had my first baby when I was 15. So, you know, like, I had generational things that I wanted to uproot and that I wanted to break. You know, I had something to prove. And at the end of the day, really what mattered the most was her. And her mental health and what she thought and what she felt. But she was very, very good at covering it for me.
Oh, okay.
Very, very good at not wanting to add anything else to my plate.
Like, yeah. So what? I'm gonna ask you this too. So with the day it all happened, like you said she was deceased or whatnot. Did a mother's tuition kick in and say, "Let me go ahead and check on her"?
Yes, several times.
Right.
Oh, I think I was gonna cry. Hold on, give me a second. Several times. Those are the moments that are the worst. Because it's so crazy that you said, God, you don't even know me. It's crazy that you said that, but what my middle child will always say is how remarkably in tune to my children I am. And my mother is to me.
Right.
You know, like this very baby that we're talking about, my mama called me. It's so funny. I was standing outside of an AME church, you know, the one right across the street from Greenville High. Mm-hmm. You're ready to walk in my best friend's wedding, and my mama called me telling, girl, is you pregnant and with another girl? And I had just took the test that morning. Like, this is crazy. This is true. That baby right there. And this is the baby that got my mama clean too. So I think all of that like was divine. But 3 separate times I was sitting there and the thought hit me that I should go to her room.
Right.
And at one point I actually went and had my hand on the door, and my thought process was she loved her electronic items. So she would always be on her tablet and her phone and stuff like that. And that would be the thing that we would get into it about all the time. Like, I just come busting up in there at like 11:30 or like midnight, like, you know? And she'd be like either under the cover, you know, or like, you know, she'd try to toss it or whatever. And I went to go do that. And I didn't open the door because I was like, it's the first day of spring break. Lay off.
You didn't want to bother.
I didn't want to bother.
Yeah.
I remember having that conversation. I was like, girl, it's spring break. I actually said that and let the doorknob go and went back to my room and sat down. And then she had actually, she's a little chef, you know, and she had made a brookie that night. And boy, when I tell you to this day, it's like the best brookie I've ever had before in my life. But I wanted another piece. Bit greedy. You know, like you use your kids like as a remote control. And well, mine are gophers. You know, I'm like, well, go downstairs and get me some tea. Well, go down. So you know, I was like, oh yeah, go down there and get me some more of that brookie, girl. That was good. And you know, she didn't answer me, and so I was like, you don't hear me? And she didn't answer me, and I got up and I got halfway to her room, and I was like, you know what? Like, I mean, if you start going up and down the stairs more, you lose some weight. You know, I'm literally, that's what I thought to myself. So I went on down the stairs and like, you know, got it. And then that third time, and I went and I saw her. I thought she heard me coming. And she's so silly. I told y'all she's silly. So she would have this thing. I don't know if you've ever seen Toy Story, but when Andy's coming, all the toys, like, you know, have to collapse. And like, Andy can't see that the toys can like move. And, you know, so like she's been doing this like for years. Like, she's always like sneaking on tablets and stuff. But if like I would be coming or my husband would be coming or if she heard anybody coming and she was doing something she wasn't supposed to be doing, she would just like drop.
Right.
Like, you know, and so like when I got to her doorway, that's kind of how she was. Like she had like a bunk bed and there's like a ladder and like a bookshelf right there. And so I could see her through the bookshelf and she just looked like this. And I said to her, I was like, girl, you so silly. That's exactly what I said. Like walking in the room, just talking. I was like, girl, you so silly. I was like, now you know. And then like at this point I'm facing her and it's just like, think anyone will ever be able to understand what happens in a moment like that, because your eyes are seeing something that your mind can't register.
Right.
And I just started screaming no and just started crying. And, like my first thought was to just grab her body. That was just my first thought, because she was hanging from her bunk bed. She was completely hanging. It's crazy because you wouldn't think that she could hang from that.
Yeah, because you probably think, girl, how did you?
You're thinking so many, but I'm just holding her, wanting to alleviate that weight.
Right.
And just calling for my husband. And at the same time, your mind is still running 1,000 on the highway.
Process.
I'm still trying to process what is happening. Thinking about how long it had been since I had seen her. Probably 15 minutes before that, she had come to my door and asked me for scissors. For the longest time, it's all I could see. I had to ask God to take that away from me. I don't wish it on any parent to find your child that I knew she was dead. Like, I knew it. Except as soon as I touched her skin, it was cool to the touch. It took a while for us to get her down because my husband was in the shower. And there are 3 rooms in between her room and ours. And I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. And he hear me, but he don't hear me. It's like he hear me, but he not really sure what's going on. And then he hears me and is like, dang, do I need to get the gun? And then, he comes in there and then he sees what he sees. And then he's like, just... Mm-hmm. And I remember saying, no, I need you. And he just like, and then he like came back and he's like, why won't you get her down? And I said, because I can't. I couldn't. I had broken the nails. Like, my nails had broke down to the quick. Trying to pull the knot loose on her neck and trying to pull the knot loose from the bed. I just couldn't. She had actually thought it through. Like, she had committed to, I'm done and this is like the way I'm leaving. She had actually, when she asked me for those scissors, and it's so hard to think about that. When she asked me for the scissors, she actually went, and when she made the knot around her neck and when she made the knot on the bed, she cut the ends of both knots. So it was very, I didn't have anything that I could pull on
Grab
to
on,
try
yeah.
to, and with the weight of her hanging, they were as tight as they could be. I had to actually cut her down, and when I cut her down and laid her down, her eyes were just rolling around like marbles, and it was the most surreal thing that I've ever experienced before in my life.
I'm glad we was able to get you on here to tell your story. We friends, classmates, and not only that, I got a 14-year-old daughter, so I sympathize with that wholeheartedly. I hated to hear that story.
Yeah, I hated to hear that too. So how is she now? Like,
so she, according to prognosis, will never be who we knew. And so, like, you have to be careful with words because they have so much power. Right. Initially, I would always say, for all intents and purposes, she was actually successful in what she attempted to do because she killed Kalea. Like, she, killed the person that we knew and that we loved. I called on the Lord Jesus for her life. She is an absolute miracle. She was dead. I heard the paramedics crying. I heard them say to each other, who's going to tell mom that we have to pronounce her. But I was calling out to God for Kalea's life. And she's just my whole entire world. She's just my pride and joy. And I remember I was so angry with God because I was like, who am I supposed to be and what the hell is my life supposed to be if I'm not her mother? You know, I don't know, like, how you can expect for me to give anything else to this world if you would allow her to die. You know, I was so mad at him because my daughter loved God first and foremost. She sang on the youth choir. And she hung herself. She had a "What Would Jesus Do" bracelet on her wrist that she had asked me for because she wanted to know how, she wanted to be reminded of how Jesus would be, you know, in the face of his enemies. So I was very hurt and I was very angry and I was very upset. But fast forward, I know that there's purpose in it all. Will she ever be the same? I have no idea. Is the final say on that. But she breathes on her own. She has a trach and a feeding tube. We were told on day 7 that we could either let her die, or we could bring her home and she would be a vegetable for the next 40 years. And that was an excruciating decision to have to make. I didn't want to play God. That was the thing. So we did pray about that situation. And something came on the radio and it just spoke very clearly and told us that we needed to fight for her. And so that's what we decided to do. And like, she's a lot better than the prognosis that she was given. But of course, you know, I want her all the way back. You know, I want her fully restored. And we work towards that every day. Like, we've taught her to communicate, like, with her eyes. She is fully cognizant, even though we were told she wouldn't be. When she came out of the coma and the first time she heard her sister's voice, she cried. And the doctor told me that that was just reactionary. Sir, first of all, like, it was crying. Like, how do you cry when you hear your sister's voice and you don't understand that that's what's happening, you know? So I already knew that what's happening with her is way bigger than medicine. It's way bigger than logic. It's a work of God. It's a move of God. And he allowed what happened to happen because it needed to illuminate all the things that are happening. Like I said, not just what happened to her, but what's happening to students all across the upstate. I didn't know that that story that happened at Tanglewood with the 2 little boys, the 12-year-old that shot the other 12-year-old. But a reporter who came and spoke with me and gave me all of these stats on what's going on across Greenville County said that was another incident that happened because of bullying. Yeah. So, like, what are we going to do? You know, like, Greenville County, are we going to continue to pay out settlements? Or are we going to invest in infrastructure and social emotional learning that is going to equip these children? Are we going to address mental health in schools? And I will say that there was one brave person from the Greenville County School Board that did reach out, that wanted to have a conversation. I really appreciated that because not only did she want to talk about the experiences, all my children, all 3 girls, were bullied in Greenville County schools. I was bullied in Greenville County schools. So, like I said, it's not just about Kalea. I mean, it's so much bigger and so much deeper. And she wanted to talk about those experiences, and she wanted to talk about, like, what could be done differently. Like, in a perfect world, what would I imagine? And that was refreshing because those are the types of conversations that need to happen. Furthermore, there needs to be policy in place. Like, the lawsuit that we have going on is a very specific law that we have to use that caps, like, the compensation that you would be able to get. And my whole thing is, like, I feel like administrators, teachers, like, you know, when you decide to take on that type of career, you owe so much more. Yeah. You know, these are babies, these are students. And I feel like, you know, we have a mandate to report. So if you're sitting around and you're watching students be verbally and physically abused and you're not reporting it, then they should be liable. Individually liable. You can't do a class action, or so I've heard. You can't do a class action against a government entity. A school is a government entity. But we have enough examples right now to start a class action. You know, so it says that this needed to happen. It says that changes need to come, and Greenville County is going to be hearing from me on those. I'm showing up at the school board meetings. You know, I'm going to be working with different agencies and entities that can help propel forward the actions that need to be in place to prevent another occurrence like this.
I hope everything work out for you. Before we go, do you want to tell people where to follow you at, or where they can donate or whatever?
Absolutely. So currently I'm on Instagram. I have the reality of Ty. So it's reality_of_Ty. And that's where we're just documenting Kalea's journey. You know, I've had so many people that want to know like how she is now, what's going on now. And of course I've been keeping that close to the chest. You know, it's rough. That's my baby. But, I think now is the perfect time. And so we're sharing, you know, bits and pieces of her journey. I'm going to be sharing like things that we're doing. 501(c) is in the works. Kalea's Cause. Cause is KAUSE. That is keeping accountability, uniting students and educating. That's what I want to do, and that's what we will be doing. I would tell her every day of that 101 days that we spent in the hospital that her story would be for God's glory and look at God move. Like I would tell her that people around the world would know her story. I didn't have any idea how to conceive of how it would happen, but God did it. Top 10 in worldwide news. Come on. Like that is insane. And that's how moves of God go. And so like watch the space. It's so much more that's going to be coming from it. And I'm just grateful for every single encouraging word. You know, lots of people have reached out and support. Lots of people have donated. There was a GoFundMe. It is still out there. It's open. It's live. My whole thing was
what is it? I mean,
the GoFundMe.
Yeah.
It's public. It's Kalea's Cause for the empowerment of Kalea. And what we were doing is we were trying to get a van for her. Cause it's been very difficult. I've really been isolated to the house for the past like 18 plus months. Like, because she has to be transported by stretcher. Like if Medicaid provides her transportation, they won't transport her by wheelchair because she's considered advanced life-saving effort. But golly, you know, it's like, that's no life. And one of the things that I promised her when we decided that we were going to keep her life is that she was going to have the best life possible. Whatever was within our power that we could provide. So, you know, like we don't really ask for money, but anything that anybody feels led to give, then absolutely we would be willing to receive. But know that words of encouragement and support have been the absolute best currency because we spent so much time alone. People that we thought were friends fell apart. You know, I was like involved in a mega church for over 15 years and like that faith-based family and that support that we thought that we would have, we didn't have. And
Right.
so now strangers have been more supportive than friends, and it's been incredible. When you talk about spirituality, they used to always say like Jesus of Nazareth. He couldn't preach in Nazareth. Why? Because everybody knew him. They hated. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't even receive what he needed to give them to save their lives because they were too busy hating. And it was just like the same thing. It's like I went live on October the 5th. It did a little something. It really didn't do like much. But like when the story started to go beyond the Facebook Live and beyond like Greenville County, it just, we've heard from people from New Zealand. I had people from Edinburgh, Scotland reach out to me, from Ghana, from Kenya, from Nigeria, from Canada. Like it's been insane, and it's a move of God, and we're just blessed.
You want to give your social media before we get out of here?
No, but I do have something to say.
Okay.
So all I want to say is, because I've seen, things on social media, and I've had to feel like I've had to fight for my sister. So all I want to say is my sister was never weak. My sister's a very strong-willed human being, very powerful, very favored. Whoever it was, you tried to diminish her name, you tried to count her out, and you just gave her a bigger name. She's very protected in every aspect. And all you gave her was a bigger army. Mm-hmm. So we thank you for that.
I'm gonna say this too, like say Greenville, the city of Greenville, whatever it is, Greenville.
Yeah, Greenville County School District.
Yeah, Greenville. Like I said, we done came a long way. If y'all want to be one of the top cities, like I said, we look good on the surface.
Oh, absolutely.
We look great on the surface, but boy, we got a black eye with this Greenville County school system. So we're going to have to clean that up.
Gotta do better.
You know what I'm saying? We're going to have to.
Hey,
got some real work to do.
And y'all already know, if y'all want to hear us speak on anything, TalkIsTalk165 at Gmail. Talk Is Talk Podcast on IG, Talk Is Talk on Facebook, Talk Is Talk Podcast on TikTok, Talk Is Talk 1 on Twitter. We out.
Talk is talk. Talk is talk. Done it all. I see you. Hail Mary, he an animal. My nigga C, okay, C, yeah, he love the ball. We posted up like we the nation with the final call. Rest in peace to Shouty Low, D4L since Shouty though. We been pimpin' since been pimpin', and that's something Shouty know. Gangsters understand the lingo, suckers sharp but Shouty slow. Stack them chips and all the bingo when we fill up all the roast.